right of the people, baby.
To truly choose to love is heroic.
Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people.
It takes the willingness to stand by and do what has to be done when it has to be done.
What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Off The Shelf Bookclub. Thank you for tuning in for another episode. My name is Jermaine.
My name is Jessalin.
And we're really excited to get into this next episode with you guys. We're going to be going over part 4 of We Do This Till We Free Us by Mariam Kaba. And the part 4 is named Making Demands, Reforms for and Against Abolition. So getting into everything today, before we get into everything today, we do want to go over that we do have our questions down below. We would love everyone's comments. Send in your opinions about whatever you're thinking about what we're talking about. We'd greatly appreciate it. We do have some things in the tuck getting ready to come into fruition to bring to you guys. We're really excited to introduce another chapter of Off The Shelf Book Club. But before we get into everything that we want to talk about today, per usual, if you need any resources for reading, check below down in the description, and make sure that if anybody else needs any resources for reading, that you send them these resources. We have plenty of links down below. We want to make reading more easily accessible to everybody, especially abolitionist reading, because that's the main focus of our book club. And we just want to spread the word, do the knowledge. Everybody has to do the knowledge, so it's important that you spread the word. Along with that, make sure that you're spreading the word by sharing. Share our videos down below. Hype the videos so we can get in front of more people. We greatly appreciate that. Drop a like, subscribe, do all the shebang. You know what we need. Hype, share, like, subscribe, follow our social medias. They're down below. And with all that being said, we will get into our land acknowledgement before we get into the book. The Off The Shelf Book Club wants to offer our utmost respect to those who came before us on this land. It is important that we protect and acknowledge the history of indigenous people of America. Minnesota Makoche, which means the land of the water that reflects the sky, is the homeland of the Dakota and Anishinaabe people. Minnesota in its history has taken part of the genocide of Native people and multiple treaties that have stripped them from their homelands. Where Off The Shelf Book Club resides is home of the Metawakan people, which means dwellers of the Spirit Lake. Off The Shelf Book Club will do whatever we can to honor the Native people and their lands and do what we can to aid in the land back movement. I said land back weird. Sorry about that. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Before we get into the discussion of today, let's go over our questions. All right, so for the questions for part 4, Making Demands, Reforms for and Against Abolition. The first question we have is, what are ideas for legislative proposals of reform that we can support? And what can we do to incentivize our local governments to use abolitionist language in our bills and laws?
How do we expand our outrage for police brutality to other state-sanctioned violence?
How can we implement abolition in our schools?
How can we better use media to help us inform and incentivize action?
And how can we work to get the cop out of our hearts and our heads? All right, so what were your first thoughts about this part?
I really like this part in the fact that it gives you things to go off of. You know, I feel like we do talk a lot about how abolition is abstract, and I feel like here's ways in which, like, here are things that you can grapple with. Like, if you want to what you should and shouldn't like be okay with in terms of like legislation. What are bills that are being, passed, or like what are, your politicians talking about and things like this. How you can identify what is something you should support and what is something you should not. And so I like it in that way.
I
Does a
did
good
like
job at
that. I feel like just making it more clear, making it to where like everybody can kind of understand this language. Like now that if you just look at this list, you can think of a few different bills or policies that have passed that completely go against the kind of like the outline that she gives you.
Yeah.
And that outline, I think this whole chapter is so relevant to today.
Yeah.
Because due to, and I hate using the word slippery slope, but the police and militarized state that we live in, that we've been okay with living in for so long, is the reason why we have the bullshit that we're dealing with today. Like, for example, flock cameras. Fuck flock. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can all sit here and say fuck flock, but what she brings up in here is like the eyes that flock brings to these corners, to your streets, have always been on people of color. And we've always felt them. Now it is inescapable for everybody. Now everybody has to get it because people turn a blind eye so much.
Yeah.
Now they're getting affected too. And that's just kind of how the world works.
Right.
You're able to look away from this oppression. Well, it's not too long until you're oppressed. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
Are there any other thoughts that you have about this overall part?
I feel like I don't know. I think overall it was just a really good setup and like, all right, let's start like action-based things. I feel like the beforehand, right, we could talk about all the different aspects to what abolition is and what does it mean and all those things. And now it's like,
This is how it's implemented.
Our beginning action steps. Here's how we can start to implement things.
And something that Kaba has said multiple times throughout the book was, and like we had a whole like kind of chapter that was dedicated to it, was hope is a discipline. And that was very reflective, I think, in this whole part, because she kind of brought it, it's the reality that we have to live with, is that we're not just going to one day wake up and all systems are abolished. No, it takes baby steps. Sometimes it's going to take a big leap, but majority of the steps that we have to take are baby steps. And this is how we do it, and making sure that we are holding ourselves to this standard as abolitionists.
Yeah.
That I just think it was a good, it was a good setup, and it gives people something to work with instead of just being like, oh, well, these systems are fucked. So, and we don't have an answer to these systems, so we're fucked. So how,
Yeah.
it gives you the hope. It gives you the hope, like the steps to gain and to walk with the hope.
It doesn't feel as like crazy, or maybe like you might not get as anxious. Because you can see this, be like, okay, like I can start here, and you just analyze the things that you're seeing. What are politicians saying? Are they going with all of these things, or are they not?
Yeah, exactly. And like that's what, seeing like the layout of it also was a reminder of like why I don't like so many different politicians, and why I will never fix myself to vote for certain politicians.
Yeah.
And honestly, another add-on to like why this chapter was such a good chapter, and I think it's actually really good timing for this chapter for everybody to read this, is because, you know, we got elections coming up, and these are going to be really important elections. Like, every election, I'd argue, is important.
Yes.
But these ones will be the sway where we see if we're actually going to sway back one way. Is the pendulum actually going to swing back this way, or are we going to keep on going further right? And I think that we can't just get satisfied with the person being elected because they have a D next to their name. Like, that's point blank period. Because right now, currently in Minnesota, we have two Democrats that are going up against each other. We have Angie Craig and we have Penny Flanagan. Sorry, Peggy Flanagan. Sorry, I'm so sorry about that. Shout out Peggy Flanagan, because Peggy Flanagan is actually, in my opinion, the right choice to, if we're going based off of these standards here. Not the most perfect policy, but it is policy that gets us closer to this than what Angie Craig does, which is she's a ICE apologist. She's a police officer apologist. She funds these things. Like, she looks to fund these. She's a hard on crime policy creator. She also is a person who gets funded up the ass by big Yahoo across the sea. So if you're reading this, you have a pretty much step-by-step on how to look at your elected officials and be like, are you for me? Are you actually pushing for the things that I believe? Can I overlook this? Is this worth overlooking, or is this something that I need to stand firm on and I'm not going to give them my vote? Like, personally, I don't care if Angie Craig wins the primary. Fuck you. You're not getting my vote, point blank, period. And with the what do you call it? The presidential election coming up here, I will not be voting for a cop. Doesn't mean I'm gonna vote for a Republican. 'Cause shit, they might be a cop too. But not only that, but we have to just start holding these standards, or there will be no standard. Like, that's the reality that America has to face, is that there is no standards if we don't hold them to them. We're getting so pissed off with how far this country has gone to shit. Well, sorry, that's how we started, and we never tried to actually make a standard. And now we're left with Trump and all the bullshit that comes with him. Were you trying to fact check me?
No.
Oh, what were you checking?
Well, I was just looking up, like, if Penny... See, now you got me all messed up.
Yeah.
If Peggy Flanagan were to be elected into the Senate, she would be the first ever Native American woman to hold the Senate.
And shout out, yeah, exactly. That's why y'all need to vote for Peggy too, is because she'd be the first indigenous woman in the Senate. Shouts out her. We need to push for her. Not no Angie Craig. That was a nice way to put it. We're not voting for Angie Craig out here. Off the Shelf Book Club, I think it's safe to say we do not support Angie Craig.
No.
We will not be voting for Angie Craig. You will not get an endorsement from us, even though we're not really an endorsement. But fuck you. You're not getting it. You're not getting it which way or the other.
I don't think Angie Craig thinks she gonna win.
I hope she gets her ass smoked. Embarrassingly. Because them fucking commercials I'm tired of seeing, and they're embarrassing.
So bad.
Swear. And she got cooked in the debate.
I didn't even see it.
Stir fry.
Not stir fried.
On God. That shit was nice to see. All right, but all right. So getting into our first question for part 4. What are ideas for legislative proposals to reform that we can support? And what can we do to incentivize our local governments to use abolitionist language in our bills and laws? What do you want to start off with? Feel like I've been talking a lot.
I think it's important to go over like that first part in the section. So like on page 70, right? Like the things that we should always and constantly look over and ask ourselves when we're observing what people are saying in terms of legislation, what our politicians want are: one, are the proposed reforms allocating more money to the police? If yes, then you should oppose them. Are the proposed reforms advocating for more police and policing, like in using terms like community policing? If yes, then you should oppose them. Are the proposed reforms primarily technology focused? If yes, then you should oppose them because it means more money to the police. Said technology is more likely to be turned against the public than it is to be used against cops. Police violence won't end through technological advances.
An example of that would be body cams.
Sure, they can be used in ways that'll help us, but also it hasn't changed very much either.
Right. Because how many have actually been sentenced with the body cam footage? Like we saw Philando Castile in Minnesota. We watched the body cam footage of that shit. We also saw with a Facebook Live, and it still wasn't enough. So fuck up out of here with funding police for more technology.
Right. Are the proposed reforms focused on individual dialogues with individual cops? And will these dialogues be funded with tax dollars? I'm never against dialogue. It's good to talk with people. However, it should not be funded by taxpayer money. That money is better spent somewhere else. Like, what is it? Like coffee with a cop or something like that? Who's paying for that?
Good.
Yeah, ask who's paying for that. Yeah, sure. Sit down with them, have a conversation, but it shouldn't be something that's coming out of taxpayer dollars.
Agreed.
Additionally, violence is endemic to U.S. policing itself. There are some individual people who work in police departments. I met some of them. But individual dialogue projects reinforce the bad apples theory of oppressive policing. And then she goes ahead and talks about things that we should support. Proposals in legislation to offer reparations to victims of police violence and their families. Proposals and legislation to decrease and redirect policing and prisons on funds to other social goods. Proposals and legislation for elected independent civilian police, accountability boards with power to investigate, discipline, fire police officers and administrators. Proposals and legislators to disarm police. Proposals to simplify the process of dissolving existing police departments, and proposals and legislation for data transparency, stops, arrests, budgeting, weapons, etc. So, like, I mean, in my mind, right, this is a good basis of like, okay, these are things that we should be looking at. And I think that you can apply them to other things, right? Not just necessarily police and prisons, but like if you look at like healthcare policies in legislation,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Like, our, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh, brain fart. Our politicians open to moving funds from the police into things like healthcare, into things like that, right? These are things that you can be asking them and like keeping an eye open for, and things like that.
Like I just looked up quickly, based off of 2024, I believe, that combined with police and the military, because I feel like it's important when we talk about police to talk about the military when we're talking about funding and shit, because they go hand in hand. If you have a heavily militarized police, you're going to have a crazily funded military period. And in total, we spend about $1 trillion between the two, mainly on military. I think it's like 900 billion of the military budget. That's how much the military budget is. And then when you come to like police, it's about, I think it's anywhere between 60 billion to 100 billion, and that's only for federal, right? And I think from what I just, a quick little Google search, about 200 billion on education. 200 billion on fucking education, but
A year?
yeah, for 2024.
Something.
All the numbers are 2024.
It doesn't feel like that.
Huh?
I said it doesn't feel like
It doesn't
that.
feel like that, but it makes sense because there is just a lot of school. There's a lot of kids. There's a lot of kids. There's a lot of schools in America. Doesn't feel like that much, but at the end of the day, when we're living in a country that spends trillions of dollars on our military state, you can cough up a few B's to the schools.
Yeah.
And that's what we have to. Like, we have to demand our politicians that's what we do. Why are we funding to kill our kids rather than to educate our kids? Our kids actively get killed in our schools by the people that we pay more than them. They're not doing anything to fucking protect them. We all seen Uvalde, Texas, the school shooting. The one where they had SWAT team outside, fucking police officers with riot shields and all that, all type of gear to deal with a high level threat.
Shaking in their boots to go in.
Took them, I don't even know how much time it took them. It took them way too much time, though. I want to say it was an hour plus before they got into the fucking school and dealt
damn
with
resource officer done called from the outside because he was scared.
Right. The whole point of a fucking school resource officer is to supposedly stop all these bad things from happening, but yet in America we still have all these fucking school shootings.
Or somebody called, I don't know if it was a school resource officer.
No, I believe the school resource officer left. And that was the same thing. No, the same thing for the Parkland shooting. And I believe that dude was like fucking dragged and everything about it because he left the school. He like left the school because shit was getting popping.
Crazy.
And I shouldn't say it like that because RIP the people at Uvalde and Parkland. But it's just like, why do we have them there? They're really just a waste of space at that point.
Right.
Because if anything, they create more issues. Like me and you, we experienced at our own school how a police officer actually was detrimental to the children around him. And why are we risking that? Why are we risking that? Like, it doesn't make sense. Start putting that funding. Like, if you support the enhancement of our military, you support the enhancement of our police, you're not getting a vote. shit, and we should start protesting outside of their house. If we can't live in peace, they can't live in peace. That's how that works. If you want shit to get done, it ain't gonna get pretty. It ain't gonna be pretty.
And if you go back on what you said you was gonna do, then you get booted out.
We need to enforce the control over our politicians. We need to leave all power to the people, not to these politicians. All power. So that actually reminds me of somewhere, I believe, in the book. You might actually have the page pulled up already, talking about a good way of doing like reform. An example of legislative proposals for reform is to have a community-based like overlook on the police, where we decide if that police officer can even have a job. We decide whether or not that sheriff or whoever becomes deputy or sheriff, we decide who is in these communities and is doing the policing. Now that is a step towards abolition, because we are no longer leaving it in the hands of the police. We cannot trust the police to police itself. We've seen over years that that's just not it.
Having communities, right? People in that community determine who gets to be a police officer and who doesn't, allows there to be a change in the environment and in the culture in which policing exists. Because you can be somebody who is good and who wants to do change and go in there and completely do a 180 because of the culture that exists around it. The incredibly xenophobic culture that is displayed in policing. It's hard not to get scooped up from that, especially if you just want to fit in. And if you want to go somewhere other than being a beat cop. Like, having community choose those things, we're able to change policing as a culture that actually incentivizes like community care, because community is automatically going to trust those who they themselves put into those positions.
Exactly. And so to quote exactly what Mariam Kaba was saying on page 97 at the bottom, towards the bottom, second to last paragraph, she says, But then there were people who thought that maybe what we need to do is mobilize the community outside of those structures so they don't get fooled into thinking these structures are actually going to be able to do anything. And some people thought that if you had a body that had the ability to hire and fire and to control resources, then it is possible that this could be an interim way to begin the erosion of the power of the police. In that case, it would be part of the long evolution on our way to abolition. You're taking away power from the institution of policing. And that's what we need, is to leave them powerless. Like, they cannot be making the decisions. They are not the judge, the jury, the executioner. They are truly a public servant,
Right.
that serves the public. Serves the public. That's all. That's your fucking job. Nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes their life easier too, if you think about it. Because I can only, like, not to humanize a fucking police officer, because they're all pigs. But if you're force fed this propaganda your whole life, you might be scared to go and do this whatever call you're reporting to. That's real.
Yeah.
Now, we shouldn't be leaving these little boys who are scared, shaking in their boots because a teenage boy is speaking with passion, and take it as a threat.
And I'd argue that you need to look at police with enough humanity to take them away from
Humanity.
the amount of jobs they do, right? Like,
Yeah.
they do so much, and they do a lot that they shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that, though, comes with we're more willing to do something about it if we have a bit of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even some empathy.
Good luck getting that shit out of me. Because honestly, how I feel, and I think that it's not a wrong way to feel. Like, I think it's just kind of a reality, cause, like, an effect of dealing with these people. I don't really give a fuck. I really don't give a fuck. Because at the end of the day, majority of these police officers don't give a fuck. They don't look at bodies, black bodies, as human, as something that has self-autonomy. Somebody who has a family to go home to. Because their whole thing is I was scared for my life and I got a family to come home to. We all do. That's why I can't fuck with you. And if your family's a police officer, fuck them too. Period. Now, it can get to a place where it doesn't have to be like that, but it takes fucking work. And I'm not going to sit here and turn my eye from the fucking heinous acts that they continue to do, like in Madison. They don't look at us as humans. So I will not humanize them until we get our shit together. Until we get our shit together with dealing with them, until I see the change of that, you're a bastard. And I understand that we need to look at people with humanity in order to make things better. Like, I think that that's what we do to criminals all the time, is dehumanize them. So we don't want to fight for them.
Yeah.
But if you're part of the oppression, it's like eating the rich. It's like eating the rich. Mm-hmm. Just because you aren't the cop that killed somebody, you didn't stop that cop from killing somebody. Just because you're rich and you're not sitting here exploiting people, quote unquote, what are you doing to give back to the community? Nothing? Okay, well, you're getting eaten too. We're going to eat the rich, fuck all cops, until it is backwards.
I'm not saying that, like, you're wrong. I'm just saying, right, in terms of, like, creating change and reaching people and, right, like, practicing giving humanity and having empathy. Nobody says you have to have a lot. Nobody says you have to have enough that makes you change your mind about a situation. But, like, if we want people to have that for everybody involved, because I think, like, abolition, like, in a big part of it is that space. We gotta do it with everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
everybody.
we gotta deal with everybody, but you also gotta deal with the like you can't. I can't humanize you until you humanize me.
Which is a reality, and, right, the vast majority of people don't see black people.
Right, but majority of people don't see black people as humans. Majority of people fucking look at the police as humans. Like that's the reason why they're able to get away with all the bullshit.
Right. So I'm just saying, take pivot it.
I understand what you're
Take away
saying.
their jobs.
I understand what you're saying. Well, what I'm saying is if you have that badge under the same system that we have, you will not be humanized, in my opinion. Because I think to humanize somebody is to say that there's good in everything, or there's a little bit of good in everybody. You know what I mean? That's a way to humanize people. That's how I look at humanizing people. Is giving everybody the chance of being like, okay, you can be good. You can like there, or you do have something good about you. Like you're not just a piece of shit. With this,
and
you
part
just
of
are.
Abolition is to see that, because that's how we create the spaces in which we could create positive, everlasting change. You did something really fucking terrible to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But we gotta come together and see the humanity in you.
And I don't agree with that all the time.
Take action.
I don't agree with that all the time because that has left
take action to
majority of the
reconcile.
the majority of the time that has historically left black bodies. I will not humanize somebody until they humanize me, because history repeats itself. We see how South Africa is still dealing with apartheid. You want to know part of the fucking reason why? Is because and I understand the worth in it because of Ubuntu. Ubuntu, the whole idea of I am because we are. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I understand that. But we've seen how truth and reconciliation works when they tried to work with the apartheid or with the white South Africaners. They tried to. And the only way that you were going to hold them motherfuckers down in that room to hear and listen to the atrocities that they have put people through was to put a gun to their head. Because you want to know what happened? After all the reasons that they fucking incentivized them to go and have this conversation and be like, hey, we will forgive you for everything you've done. We just have to have a conversation about it. We have to build up on it. They didn't do shit. And we're still stuck with, or they are still stuck with the ugliness of apartheid. Just like how we still are stuck with the ugliness of slavery, Jim Crow, redlining, fucking mass incarceration. We still see these things. So the only way you can do that shit is sometimes you do have to, like the reality is that we do have, violence is inevitable. You cannot be to commit violence onto somebody is dehumanizing them. Period. And if you have a violent oppressor like the police are, there is no way around it that if you want to overcome it, there will be blood. Period. And it's necessary. It's a necessary evil. You can't beat violence with nonviolence. You saw what they did to Martin Luther King. You saw what they did to Gandhi.
They did a lot of... Both of those people, though, also, in fact, did make change in their movements.
They made change that... Okay, I don't want to speak ill upon two people who have created a lot of beautiful things in this world and have done a lot of hard work. But I could still sit here and say that we wouldn't be in the position where we are still to this day if we weren't shoved down our throats the turn your eye or turn the other cheek. Because if anything, after him, the amount of blood that black people saw that had the faith, that didn't stop the oppression.
And I'm also not saying that what they did actually tackled the root cause of the issues that we see.
And what I'm
What
saying
I'm
is,
saying, like, but their ways still created change. I think that there is a space for every way of fighting against it. The thing was that there was everybody had the same outcome. They just had different ways of doing it. And they all each had they all had their spaces in which were needed. Like, at the end of the day, yes, Martin Luther King was nonviolent. You could argue that his nonviolence didn't do much if you want to argue that. But you know who did do a lot?
Who?
The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
Mm-hmm.
Nonviolent Coordinating Committee.
Yeah.
They didn't enact violence, but they had a huge part in making change. They made a lot of change.
And you can
time.
Make change. Agreed. But we're still looked at as subhuman. That 3/5 has not gone any fucking where, and that's since slavery times. Like, dead ass. And I could see, and I'm not taking away from all of the non-violent efforts that have been done. But I can sit here and say that, yes, I have appreciated the work and the outcomes that have come from certain things that have come from nonviolence. But we are still in the same boat of, it might be a little bit of different waters, but we're still in the same boat. We're still subhuman. We're still getting killed. We're still getting lynched. Because police brutality is like modern day lynching.
I understand that. My thing is...
So if we sat here and these people did all this work, this nonviolent work, because nonviolent work has been the biggest echo in America, or has been the loudest echo in America, is that, oh, we all got to be nonviolent. That's how we make progress. But we're still here. We're still here in the same fucking boat. It doesn't change the fact that we are looked at as subhuman and not worth the humanity. And that's not going to change with non-violence.
But there also is a reality. If we look at abolition in itself, there are a lot of books on abolition. I haven't read them all. Mm-hmm. I've probably only have the tip of the iceberg. But abolition clearly addresses roots. It addresses the roots of the issue.
Right.
It tackles the roots of the issue.
Right.
Thing that we've been talking about the most. I have yet come across anything that talks about violence in abolition. In terms of actually acting, actually practicing abolition. Mm-hmm. I have not seen violence come across.
I can agree with that. I still can sit here and say that I think that that's a missing part. Because these things are.
But I wouldn't think that that's not the case.
Do you think, like, let's be for real. Let's be for real about this abolition. If we want to abolish police, do you think that police are just going to let go of their power? Do you think that the military state is going to let go of the chokehold that they have on the people without shedding blood?
I don't know.
I think you are insane if you think that. There's a chance for the military state that we have in America, that the fucking Nazis, some of the worst people in the history, I don't put air quotes around that saying that they're not bad. I'm just saying they may not be the worst because we are literally the origins of them. the same people who helped create Nazi Germany, are going to be the same people who let go of their power non-violently and cooperate.
I'm not even saying that you can't defend yourself. People think about talking about defending
Well,
yourself.
that's what
all
I
the
say
time.
when I'm saying violence. That's what I'm talking about. That's
But
what I'm talking about, is defending ourselves.
we're not talking about committing acts of violence. It's everything but that. If you want to defend yourself, if you need to defend yourself,
Right.
I'm sure there are plenty of abolitionists that are okay with that.
Right.
I'm not even saying yeah, but like when we put violence at the forefront, all that does is talk about abolition is violence, but that's not it.
I'm not saying put it at the forefront. I'm just saying there is not going to be abolition without violence. There will not be. There will not be. And I think you can ask any abolitionist. They may push nonviolent tactics forward, but they know, like, the whole point of what we've talked about is the literal militarization of our police. And how they murder people and get away with it. They torture people and have gotten away with it.
Right?
What is it that is going, like, what is going to what will change? What would change about the system, about the people in the system currently that are fully indoctrinated? What could we do to actually change them from their disgusting, trifling ways before we get their fucking power away? Before we take their power away, because we have to work with them to take their power away.
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't have the answer to it, but that doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't.
The answer is that there will be violence. That they're not just going to give it up. Just like any other, like, when we talk about abolition, we're talking about a revolution. And when we're talking about a revolution, there will always be blood. Period. We're talking about fighting Uncle Sam. The most violent person to ever exist. The most violent entity to ever exist. I'm not saying that what Mariam Kaba is, the nonviolent tactics are not worthwhile. They are worthwhile. They are worth all the time that we could put towards them. But when we're talking about a military state, the one that literally leads the world in murders. We lead the world in murders and we don't have 1 billion people in this country.
Well, yes, I'm not saying those things can't happen. Just saying these nonviolent tactics just as important.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying that there will be blood. And we need to consider that. And we need to talk about it. We need to prepare ourselves mentally too. Like, personally, when ICE came, I don't fuck with guns. But once the Metro Surge was happening, the only time that I ever thought about really copping a gun and getting it licensed to carry. Why is that? Because the motherfuckers can literally walk up in your house without a warrant, without explaining themselves. And we've seen how much they've gotten away with. We don't see fucking Alex. Not even going to say all the names because I can't think of them all off the top of my head. But all the people that have been killed by ICE, we've seen no justice for them. And we handled it peacefully. We've done a lot of things peacefully.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing was done. It took...
There were some things that were done. It didn't get us to the full-fledged of what we needed it to be. And I think that there are some reasons for that. Not because
those
we
ICE
needed
officers
to.
are still working. They're actively still working.
I didn't say that it took care of everything. I said that we were able to make some changes.
Like?
There were some things.
Like?
There were things community-wise that created change.
Right.
In terms of,
I can agree with that.
Which is a step forward into the right direction. The way that people were able to get together, create community policing against them are active ways in which we can use to push that forward.
But that's not answering my question of, because we're talking about dealing with the state. Like, yes, community is important. That's important. That's like one of the key integral roles of abolition.
And I'm sure that there were probably a couple things
They loosened up their grips.
State-wise that happened at the time. I just can't think of it.
I didn't mean to say they loosened up their grips. They just... Actually, they did loosen their grips on fucking ICE and let them go even more wilder after the fact. Because that's, like, after Alex Preddy, Megan Good, and that little boy who was taken, who was separated from his family and put into, and was detained himself. After that happened, they created the no need for a warrant to get up in your house. ICE doesn't need a warrant. They've loosened it. But you saw what happened when George Floyd happened. When there was a little bit of violence.
Them saying, like, you can do whatever you want and the realities of it are two different things. I do think that, like, yes, if they do it, they do it. There will literally be no consequences before the fact if it were to happen. Everything happens after the fact, which is an issue in itself.
Yeah, so sorry, I misspoke about it. ICE agents can enter homes using administrative warrants instead of judicial warrants. All right, just to wrap things up on for this question, we kind of already started answering it, but we did want to just specify. We did just want to specify, how do we expand our outrage for police brutality to other state-sanctioned violence? Mm-hmm. And I think that just starts with humanizing everybody, and like understanding like police are the first step to going to prison, and like looking at prisoners and just overall people who are detained in our justice system, that we humanize them first and start looking at the violence that they face, because they face some of the most, dangerous conditions in America or in the world, and we need to admit those things so we can change it.
Yeah, I think one thing is that she talks about too is like, we fund the police doing the violence, the perpetuating the violence onto us. We fund the state perpetuating violence on us. Mm-hmm. Because violence can also just be a lack thereof. Like we talk about there not being enough money in our education. That can be considered violence, especially when they're gutting our Department of Education and on other things, right? Like that is violence on us. And if your outrage is about using taxpayer dollars to allow police brutality to be around, because, you know, our taxpayer dollars go into paying their stuff, then we should be acting that way in the same thing, because it's all the same.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, like, I'd argue just kind of like what you said with, like, violence doesn't have to be, like, this. It could be just a lack thereof. Like, any lack of anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you want to start talking about that, let's start looking at, like, gun violence in America. Not only by the state specifically, but period, is because, like, we should be doing something about that.
Mm-hmm.
And we, like, there's fucking children's blood is on all of our hands because we haven't put our foot down as a people, and we need to. Like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that when we feel as a community, like, we need to have more community meetings, rallies, whatever, when we start talking about the things that we are feeling like we don't have enough of in every community, so we can start fulfilling those needs. And when we see that this pot or this cup needs to be filled, we have enough to fill that cup, and we move on, and we keep on doing that for everything. But that takes us stepping up to these people and telling them no more violence. Mm-hmm. No more turning the blind eye. Because just like how y'all were taught in school, being a bystander to watching somebody being bullied is damn near just as bad as being the bully. Right. We need to step up. And how long are we just going to turn our eyes? Because it's only a matter of time till, specifically in America, man, like, you just never know when that bullet's got your name on it. It's the number one cause of children's death in America. So that's just another example of, like, how policy can be violent and state sanctioned violence. Yeah. And we got to start just demanding more, expecting more, setting the standard, bro. Let's have some standards, please. Let's get some damn standards up in here. Let's have a little bit of decorum. Because right now, this ain't it.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add on?
No.
All right. Well, thank you guys again for tuning in today. It was a little bit of a heated kind of debated eventually. I feel like this is the first time we ever debated on the podcast.
Yeah.
Part of me was questioning, like, do we keep it? I'm like, fuck it, we ball. Let's see how it goes. And I think it was worth the conversation.
Yeah.
Because even though I still don't think we walked away agreeing with each other, we still heard each other and saw what we got. I think I got something out of it. So
yeah. But
again, appreciate you guys for tuning in. We really look forward to working with you guys again on this. We're gonna split this specific part into two different parts, or this chapter into two different parts. We answered the first two questions. We're gonna go over the next three in the next episode. And again, we're really excited to just continue to move forward with this book. We have a few more parts. We have part 5, 6, and 7 after we do part 2 of part 4. It's a lot of parts. Sorry, guys. But again, we appreciate you guys for tuning in today. We wish you nothing but the best. All power to the people. We wish you nothing but great health and wealth, a peace of mind. Ashe.
Ashe.
I run the people, baby.
To truly choose to love is heroic.
Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people.